The old lighthouse stood sentinel against the crashing waves. A beacon in the storm, it had been Thomas's life for 40 years. He knew every creak of its timbers, every flicker of its light. Lonely, yes, but the sea was his companion, the lighthouse his purpose.
Years had etched lines on my face, each one telling a story of the sea.
His beard, as white as the foam on the waves, spoke of time spent battling the elements. He was a man of the sea, shaped by its moods and mysteries. He had chosen this life, sought solace in the rhythmic crashing of waves, the cries of gulls, his only company. The lighthouse, with its spiraling stairs and ever-watchful lamp, was his domain. Here he felt closest to the memory of his lost love, a memory as constant as the tides. The storm raged. Wind howled like a banshee. Rain lashed against the lighthouse windows. Thomas was startled by a frantic knocking. Visitors were unheard of in this weather. He peered through the peephole, his heart pounding against his ribs.
Please, I need shelter.
A young woman stood drenched and shivering on the doorstep. Her eyes, wide and pleading, held a familiar spark. She was no more than a girl, her hair plastered to her face, clothes clinging to her slender frame. Fear and desperation were etched on her pale features. Thomas hesitated, his gut twisting with a strange premonition. He couldn't leave her out there, not in this weather. He opened the door, ushering her inside. Evelyn collapsed onto the floor, her breath ragged. Thomas rushed to her side, wrapping a thick blanket around her trembling shoulders. As he helped her up, their eyes met. Her eyes, a deep emerald green, held a flicker of recognition that sent a chill down his spine.
Thank you. I wouldn't have survived out there. You have kind eyes.
Her words, her voice, even the way she tilted her head, it all seemed so familiar. Like a melody he had once known but forgotten. The years seemed to melt away, and for a fleeting moment he saw a ghost of the past reflected in her eyes. A past he had tried so hard to forget. Warming her hands on a steaming mug of tea, Evelyn finally spoke.
I came to find you. My mother, she told me about you. My mother, her name was Rose. She said you were the only man she ever loved.
Thomas froze, his blood turning to ice. The mug slipped from his grasp, shattering into 1,000 pieces on the floor. The truth hung heavy in the air, suffocating him. Rose. The name echoed in the silence of the lighthouse, a painful reminder of a love lost, a life unlived. He stared at the young woman before him, his mind reeling. Could this be true? Could this be his daughter, a living, breathing reminder of the woman he had loved and lost? Memories, long suppressed, flooded his mind.
With her laughter like wind chimes and eyes that mirrored the sea.
Their stolen moments on the beach, promises whispered under the starlit sky.
Then the heartbreak, the silence, the unbearable pain of her loss.
He had shut himself away from the world, seeking solace in the solitude of the lighthouse.
He'd believed his love for Rose, their brief time together, had died with her. Now, looking at Evelyn, he saw the truth.
His love hadn't died, it had been reborn in her.
A wave of guilt washed over him, as vast and unforgiving as the storm raging outside.
He had been so consumed by his grief, he hadn't even known of her existence. All those years, he had been a stranger to his own flesh and blood, a father in name only.
The storm outside raged on, mirroring the turmoil in Thomas's heart. Evelyn sat opposite him, her eyes filled with a mixture of hope and apprehension. He wanted to reach out, to bridge the chasm that separated them, but the weight of years and unspoken words held him back.
Why? Why now?
Evelyn looked down at her hands, her fingers twisting nervously in her lap.
She told me to find you before it was too late.
Her words pierced his heart. He had wasted so much time, let his pain consume him. Now fate had given him a second chance, an opportunity to heal the wounds of the past, to finally embrace the love he had thought lost forever. As the night wore on, they spoke, their words tentative at first, like the first hesitant steps on unfamiliar ground. Evelyn told him about her life, her dreams, the void she had always felt, the longing for a father she had never known. Thomas listened, his heart aching with each word.
He saw so much of Rose in her smile, her gestures, the way her eyes lit up when she spoke of things she loved. He saw, too, a strength and resilience that mirrored his own.
He shared stories of her mother, painting a picture of the woman she had never known but carried in her heart. As he spoke, he felt a weight lifting from his chest, the years of unspoken grief slowly dissolving in the warmth of their shared connection. As dawn broke, the storm finally subsided, leaving behind a world washed clean. The sun, a promise of new beginnings, peeked over the horizon, casting a golden glow over the turbulent sea. Thomas and Evelyn stood on the cliffs, watching the waves crashing against the rocks below.
She would have liked you. She always saw the good in everyone.
Evelyn smiled, a sad but understanding smile.
I think so too.
The air was thick with unspoken words, a shared grief, a newfound connection. They had weathered the storm, both the one outside and the one that had raged within their hearts. In its aftermath, they found solace, a glimmer of hope, the promise of a future they would face together. Evelyn stayed at the lighthouse for weeks. They fell into a comfortable routine, their days filled with shared meals, walks along the shore, and stories of a past that bound them together. Thomas taught her the ways of the sea, the secrets of the lighthouse, sharing the knowledge he had accumulated over a lifetime.
As the days turned into weeks, the lighthouse, once a symbol of solitude and grief, was filled with laughter and the comforting rhythm of life. Thomas, his heart lighter than it had been in years, felt a sense of peace he had thought lost forever.
He had been given a second chance, not just at love, but at redemption, at being the father he always should have been. The future stretched before them, uncertain yet full of hope. They had found each other, two souls brought together by fate and the unforgiving fury of a storm. As the lighthouse cast its beacon into the night, a symbol of hope and guidance for lost souls at sea, Thomas knew that he had finally found his way home.